And through this, they've encouraged us to form what we call a Data Alliance. This is very loosely defined as end users, value-added service providers, folks in the ecosystem that directly or through value-added services use their data. And just want to point out here, because I get questions all the time, what's a CRADA, right? It's a cooperative research and development agreement. This basically gives us the ability to get in there and work closely with NOAA, access some data that isn't yet available in a collaborative way and in a way that doesn't give us privileged access. And the goal is for us to work collaboratively together to experiment. And by doing that, we can find out a little bit more about what data they have and look at what we want to do with it. So the NOAA Big Data Project was announced on April 21st, 2015. We all have scars from that day of getting everything coordinated. So it was announced on that day, and we signed the agreement. We announced it. Microsoft, Google, IBM, Open Cloud Consortium also signed it. We're very, it's very open. This was an experiment with multiple cloud providers. And on that day, we announced our Data Alliance and the fact that we were doing this. So I encourage you to take a look at these web pages, bookmark it, aws.amazon.com/NOAA-big-data/. We're going to be putting lots of information out through there, so stick it in your phones now. Now, before I talk a little bit more about what we're doing with the NOAA Big Data Project, what it means for us and for our customers, I want to give you a little bit of context. And the context is what open data means to us here at AWS. Just an advisory, after this at 3:30, there is an open data session. So if you're super jazzed about open data, please do go to that session right after this. So why do we care about open data? What is open data? It's data that can be used by anyone for any purpose for free. Very simple. There's lots of policies out there that define it in more granular ways. And the really basic answer to the question of why we, Amazon Web Services, care about open data is that our customers care about it. Our customers, many of our customers, and Esri, Weather Company, Planet OS are just 3 examples, they rely on quality open data for their products and services, it's like a part of their application stack just as much as their compute and storage and other services are. And so by making data available on AWS, by helping data providers make their data open on AWS, it serves our customers well. And it just so happens that Amazon Web Services is a fantastic way to make data open. And part of this is just the very simple fact that if you put data on something like Simple Storage Service, you're making that data available in a way that it can be rapidly accessed by all of our other services. And that just cuts down the time, the cost, the effort to do things with the data. So all the stuff you talk about with enabling agility with cloud, that's what people want to do when they make their data open. And Amazon Web Services, there's no better way to do that. And very importantly, exhibited through the entire premise of the NOAA Big Data Project is the fact that you're not just making your data available to all of Amazon Web Services' fantastic services, but you're making it available to our ecosystem. Amazon Web Services, as you heard in the keynote this morning, we've got over 1 million customers in 190 countries. We've got, most of the startups in the world on AWS. When you look at what government and others are trying to do when they open their data, is to reach those end users. So by making the data available on a platform that your end users use for their compute and technology needs, you're really bringing it closer to them. So one last bit of context to help frame how we think about the NOAA Big Data Project and how we're approaching it is a specific program that we have as part of our open data efforts, and that's the AWS public data sets. Now, this is just a small part of what we do, but we do host a selection of data sets at no cost to the providers, at no cost to end users. And the data that we make available is, as with any open data on AWS, really easy to launch and use with all our services. We've got data from life sciences, like 1,000 Genomes Project. We've dabbled in earth sciences as well. We've got the open NASA Earth Exchange, Landsat, which I'll talk about in a moment, internet science, census data, and this really can accelerate research, drive entrepreneurship, and improve public services across a variety of spaces. Now, we've been doing this for a few years, and we've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work when you're trying to make data open, whether it's on AWS or elsewhere. And a lot of those lessons learned we've poured into our most recent public data set, and that's Landsat on AWS. So Landsat, in case you're not familiar, it's a quick description. This is USGS and NASA, an Earth observation satellite program. It's the longest running program on Earth taking pictures of Earth. It's got a 40-year archive, and it's really the gold standard. It's really, really fantastic data source. But the way that this has been made available historically, it was just really hard and expensive to acquire, both in terms of time, expertise, and technology resources. And this is a multi-petabyte data source. So this is really big open data. So what did we do? We've committed to making up to a petabyte of Landsat imagery available on Amazon S3. And it's all of the Landsat 8, the current satellite. Every time a new image comes down, it's about 700 scenes a day. It gets put up onto that bucket. And we're selectively making some of the archival data available as well. And there's a lot more information. I'm going to kind of speed through this a little more to make sure we stay on time. But I really encourage you to go on to the website and just check this out. There's great documentation. And you can see the really innovative way that this data is being made available. And the way it's being made available is truly letting folks with no significant upfront investment, whether it's their infrastructure or becoming an earth science expert, really with very little upfront or no significant upfront investment, get access to this data and use it. And we had several customers, Development Seed, Esri, MathWorks, Mapbox, and Planet Labs, before the data was made available publicly on AWS, took a look at it, vetted it, used it to develop demos, new features, and new products, and that was part of our launch. And what that meant was that when we launched this data, people were truly able to use it right away. So right away that less than 48 hours after it was released, we saw in a tweet that the data was used at a mining hackathon in Perth, Australia. I think they're automatically detecting titanium deposits. That's what we're trying to do with open data projects. And so Landsat really kind of is a great indication that we're moving in the right direction. So AWS Data Alliance, we announced this on the 21st of April, once again. And what did we announce? We announced that we entered into this research agreement with NOAA. We were going to explore sustainable models to make the data open, and we encouraged folks to tell us if they wanted to participate as end users or value-added service providers. And then the questions started coming in, what does that mean? this is what it means. When we look at ways to make data available, we always want to start with the customer and work our way back. That's how we do all of our product development. And in this case, the customers are end users of the data. So we want to, in our Data Alliance, in our group of folks who are interested in working with us, have a stable of individuals, organizations that currently use NOAA data, are interested in using NOAA data to tell us what data they want. And not only tell us what data they want, but how they want it and what they're going to do with it. And that prioritizes our roadmap for the types of data that we ask NOAA to investigate as possible data to release through this project. As you saw with Development Seed, Mapbox, Esri, and those folks, we actually ask our customers to participate as well in the beta phase and participate in launches and then use the data. We also have a role, you have a role to play in being value-added service providers. A lot of this data is not stuff that the layperson is going to get up there and start using just by themselves. There are tools that can make it easier to use the data, products that use the data, whether it's giving weather alerts or routing trucks or whatever it is that this data feeds into. So we're looking for folks who want to contribute free or paid tools to this ecosystem that we can promote. And then finally, data extraction collaborators. This is a smaller set of organizations that want to put some skin in the game to help us get the data from NOAA servers on AWS and released as a public asset. We seeded our Data Alliance with 3 preliminary collaborators, and that's Planet OS, the weather company, and Esri. But we are absolutely interested in hearing from others who want to play this role. So I'll just close out before going over to our very patient NOAA folks. The general approach that we're looking to take. So we want to be iterative. We want to take a phased approach. We want to test things out as we go along. So right now, we're in an upfront research period. We are scoping out initial projects, looking at what data our customers want and how we can make it available, and who wants to contribute to that ecosystem. So please tell us what you want early and often with as much specificity as you can. What's coming next is actually getting data out there. That's the whole point. And I'm very, very happy to share with you guys just kind of a preview that we have identified the first data that we're going to be making available. And it's NEXRAD. It's the Doppler radar system. We're going to be working with NOAA and our collaborators to make this available freely on S3, like we've done with Landsat and the other public data sets. Just quickly, what is NEXRAD? You can look it up. But it's a network of 160 high-resolution Doppler radar sites, mostly located in the United States, but some overseas. And it detects precipitation and atmospheric movement and disseminates data in 5-minute intervals from each site. And this is truly an authoritative data source. This is already used across multiple industries and research fields. And something that got us really excited about this, that we heard from some researchers, is they think that with this project, by making NEXRAD data available, for the first time, NEXRAD could be incorporated into climate models that require more than 10 years of longitudinal data. It's just been too hard to get that much historical data in the past. And so since that's cost prohibitive today, with AWS, it's not going to be cost prohibitive. And we're excited to get this out there and see if that happens. We're hoping it has the impact that it could in that space and others. So my call to action for you before I head over to those guys is please go onto our website. It's the NOAA Big Data website I had up before, there should be a page now, a subpage to it with Nexrad, where you can sign up to say that you're interested in the data. We've already started bringing this on, and we want people and organizations to start poking around at it and potentially be beta users and help us ahead of launching it more publicly. So that's that. I'll just flash these up real fast. These are FAQs we get, just in case these were questions you were going to ask. You're welcome to still ask them during the Q&A, so these are some freebies. But user input's how we're going to prioritize data availability. Tell us what you want through the website. I've just told you we've got some Nexrad data coming soon, but otherwise we're being iterative. I bet you're going to ask this question because everybody asks it, but I'll give you the short answer. How do we make money? When we make this kind of data available at no cost to end users, people pay for the AWS services they use to process the data. That's just the simple, most immediate answer. And value-added services, like I said, most folks are not going to be able to just work directly with this kind of data. So theoretically, you can make money off of selling services that use the data. And with that, hey guys.
Hey, Ariel.
I'm a little behind my schedule.
That's okay, we'll talk quickly.
You'll talk quickly? Okay. All right, let's do this. So, Maia and Dave. First of all, I just want to say it's been really a pleasure working with you guys. It's been a bit of a journey, and we're just getting started. But it's been nice to have a very collaborative approach to all this. So thank you for being here and for all the work you're doing. So the first one I want to tee up, because this is an Amazon Web Services symposium, cloud. Why did you, NOAA, make cloud such a central part of your big and open data strategy?
Yeah, so there are a couple answers there, and I don't want to go too much into the backstory because we were a long time getting here, and it would take up the rest of the time we have. But
I was 25 when it started.
yeah,
Couldn't have been that long.
But so the most kind of obvious basic answer to that, right, is that the thing that we needed was infrastructure. And the folks who have lots of infrastructure are infrastructure as a service providers. So that was kind of a no-brainer. It took us sort of a while to get there, though, because we initially released this as an RFI, request for information, early last year. We got back a ton of fantastic responses from industry, most of which were responses from companies that wanted to use the data, right? Naturally. These were responses from people, probably many of the people in this room, who said, this is awesome, we're really excited to get our hands on this data, we really want to use it, here are the different data sets that we want to use, how can we get it? And so kind of going back to your answer to the question of how do we make money, most of the folks who responded then were really excited to get the data so that they could make money, right? And we're maybe less excited about the idea of giving it to other people to make money.
Okay.
So this was another one of the things that kind of drew us to really reach out to the cloud providers and talk about this as a research and development project, because we know that you guys have a vested interest in as many people as possible getting access to this data and using it. Mm-hmm. And that obviously is our goal as well, right? And so it seemed like a natural fit. And there was, we did go through kind of a period of this conversation with you and with the other cloud providers of where the initial response from infrastructure as service providers was, well, we don't really want the data. So why
Yeah,
do we care?
So this is one of the things, like, I manage our open data program, and we do get questions about, why does AWS have an open data program, or asking, so what's your open data service? And when you look at cloud or AWS, we don't just sit in the infrastructure as a service layer, but it really is that robust ecosystem that is so much a part of the value proposition, and playing that kind of translator or sitting in that space is something that we try to embrace through how we work with open data.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why these data alliances are so freaking important, right? Because it is the entire ecosystem that's really going to make this successful. And so it took us kind of a while to make it to you, because we were initially kind of talking with the sales folks, no offense, Cindy, and we're having great conversations with them, but there wasn't this initial kind of sales folks are going to make money off of this directly. So it kind of took a while to work through this process of finding the right people. And when we did, we really found them. And you guys have been fantastic to work with.
Thank you. It is early days, though, right?
It is early days.
So, this is a question that we continue to get around, how do we make money, and we're experimenting, right? It's been 2 months. What kind of has been the thing that's been the most surprising throughout all of this? Have you had that eureka moment of some sort, or are things going as you expected? What are some of the things that have happened so far?
Well, I would say for me that, and surprise is probably too strong a word, but that what I've been struck with is that things have gone as I expected. So I was back there in the dark ages when we were conceptualizing this project all together, and coming to the realization that the whole goal was to make the open data accessible, and then the cloud was the obvious way to do that. But what I've been struck with in this, going on a year and a half now, that things seem to be unfolding the way we really expected that they would. And I mean, in a way, that's surprising that it's working the way it's supposed to work.
And can you just give an example of what does that mean? So
well, we had to deal with the sort of conceptual issues, the business issues at the front end. The question that you posed to yourself up there and gave the good answer to: how can you make money on this? Everybody was thinking we were selling franchise rights to mine data out west, and instead we're trying to set up an ecosystem where everybody can go look at the Grand Canyon. I mean, they're not going to use it up. What's happening what I'm seeing happening in the 2 months is realizing, okay, we got that out of the way. We figured out the people on the inside and more people on the outside are getting the basic idea of how to do this. That you don't have to have exclusive rights to the data for everybody to still be able to make money on it. But the thing you have to do is move those bits. You have to expose, you have to get connection with the infrastructure inside NOAA, you have to get it out into the infrastructure providers to expose it on this cloud surface. I'm more of a policy architecture type person than a technical person, and it always strikes me that technology is so darn technical, but it's striking to me as well what capabilities everybody seems to have. NOAA certainly has capabilities. We get this huge amount of data. Amazon certainly has the capabilities to move this out technically. But it's fascinating for me to stand and watch the really technical people figure out how to connect all these pieces and look at the innovation that's going on, from Amazon and from inside through our PIFs and through the people in NOAA. So I guess that's my take on where the first 2 months are, is that it's every day it looks like there's more promise to it, but it's still technical. You still have to get, I'm a phone company person, you still have to get dial tone, at every step along the way.
So, we have heard the whole "it takes a village" type of thing, and it's great to see folks starting to come together. I think still asking the right questions, and we're trying to figure things out together, right? But you know, how are you getting people on board? You can't just go evangelize this and just everybody starts doing it. So internally, externally, how have you gotten people to come along or not?
Yeah, so the big thing there, you know, like you say, it's certainly early days, and we're still kind of figuring out with you and with the other providers how best to market this. But it's really about making these connections. And at this point, these continue to be just individual connections. You know, we have data customers who reach out to us, who we talk to on a regular basis, and as we talk to them, we're introducing them to the project and connecting them out to you, so that then you can follow up and build out the Data Alliance. And I think the growth of the ecosystem, the growth of the Data Alliance is iterative in much the same way getting out the data is iterative. You know, she told two friends, she told two friends, she told two friends kind of thing, and getting word out.
So, you know, where do we hit scale? What, you know, do you have thoughts on that? Because, you know, this is something that a lot of our customers face as a challenge with open data projects. It's getting to end users and figuring out how to do it in a way that's not just kind of a one-off. So do you have thoughts on how you'll be able to start scaling more on the business side of things? Not just, I mean, cloud takes care of the scale for the data. What about for the public-private partnership for building these alliances?
Yeah. So this is part of the beauty of the Data Alliance model, is that cloud can also help us with that, right? So in much the same way that the infrastructure as a service providers are scaling out our infrastructure, we're also definitely excited to and looking forward to working with you guys to build out that community, because there are lots of customers that you already have who could use NOAA data and have never heard of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, right? And so, so I think figuring out the ways to bridge those gaps is going to be really interesting, and you know, leveraging your skills in terms of managing communities of customers, I think is going to be really helpful for us.
Well, and the benefit of the ecosystem approach. We have multiple ecosystems, and ecosystems are all about evolution, right? And diversity and adapting. So once we get some actual connections, get some data actually flowing, get some people actually using it, talking about it, it's going to just attract that mob of people who want our data. It's a good problem to have, right? And what I do know about the technical world is, if you've got a problem, if there's something you want to do, and it's a task, you're going to figure out a way to do it. And it's going to be happening with multiple people in your data alliance. It'll be happening with multiple people in the other data alliances. It'll be happening across multiple data alliances. And I think what's going to rapidly develop is something analogous to what happened with the internet, you know, and the whole IP addressing system and the DNS and various ways of broadcasting out the existence of, say, web pages or other assets. Those things will develop organically, and the ones that work the best will get the most traffic, and they'll spin off, you know, variations of those, and that's where I think it's gonna go.
Well, I cut into the promised 15 minutes, but we've got 7 minutes left, and I want to get to the audience, because really once again, the key to whether or not this type of thing can work is whether there are users who want the data and are using the data, and it creates that kind of flywheel and network effect. We're all about scale. So, audience, what are your questions? Do we have a microphone that we can share? You can. How about shout it out? I'll repeat it, but if we can get a microphone, that'd be great.
Josh New with the Center for Data Innovation.
Hey, Josh.
they come to you just like, hey, can you design this for us, or if they come to Amazon and they're kind of questions, or is it still too experimental?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to repeat the question real fast. So basically, have other government agencies that face similar challenges on disseminating large amounts of data approached NOAA, AWS about this project?
So this would have been my answer to the biggest surprise question, is the amount of interest this has gathered. I honestly did not realize until April 21st how big a deal this was going to be. And one of the things that has happened is that, yeah, we have heard a lot from other government agencies. And there are some government agencies that are also kind of already making forays into the space. NIH has their commons that they're working with some of the cloud providers on as well. So, we've been talking with them. We've been trying to learn from each other. Certainly as far as actual things, action items, nothing is planned at this stage because we're way too early, right? So we're having conversations with other government agencies, and pretty much the message is, look, we would love to tell you how this goes. If the collaborators want and you want, we're happy to make introductions, but we have more data than we can handle right now, so we need to really focus on what we're doing first. But yeah, there has been a ton of government interest in it, and it's encouraging, right? I mean, if this actually does end up working, then potentially there are opportunities to do it for other agencies as well. But.
So from the beginning, we architected it, stubbed it out, right, so that the approach could be extensible. So if you think you take the high road and take the low road, we wanted to, like particularly with the limiting conditions, the required conditions for a level playing field, for equal access to all, no privileged private access. Those principles were aimed directly at maintaining a level playing field since it's a public good. So that's the high road. And yes, we want them to, we're asking them, well, come here, watch what's happening. We'll exchange information with you and let's see what, and then but boots on the ground, we got to make sure we don't break anything, that we keep the thing alive. You have to keep breathing, right? So we have to focus on the experimental aspects of the thing to get the data actually flowing. So it's this sort of two-pronged operation going on in parallel.
And I will say, we have customers and other government agencies that ask us about it as well. And, we continue to do other collaborations. There's, our public data sets program with Landsat. It's not under CRADA, so we don't need that in order to do these kinds of projects. And so we look at all the different models that we can engage with agencies that want to make their data available. Other questions? Here's, sorry, just a little louder.
The question regarding the data currency, because you're getting massive data on a daily basis. So you have terabytes of data, like, for example, when you have 2 terabytes having a refresh time.
Right.
Obviously, APM model is going to work when you have on a daily basis changes occurring.
Yeah, and just what's your name and
My name is Amish. I'm from a company called Data Society.
Okay, great. So it's asking about the currency of the data. Is this something that we're just looking at, archival data? If we're looking at, NOAA has tons of sensor data. Are we going to be making the real-time stuff available? And it's all on the table, right?
Yeah. So the technical challenges for the different types of data are very different, right? So it's obviously, it's one thing to say, here's 300 terabytes of Nexrad data, we'll get it to you over the course of a few weeks. And it's quite another to have data which is absolutely real time, that stock markets are trading on, that has to make it to everyone at the same time because it has to be fair. That's a much harder technical challenge. However, that's also really, really exciting and interesting data. So that's part of the stuff that we want to try to get out through this process. So yeah, as Ariel says, it's all on the table. I think some are going to be easier than others, and so they'll probably hit first, but we're certainly talking about all of the different types of data that NOAA offers.
Yeah, and for us, you know, the incremental cost of doing that, it's completely demand driven. So if there is demand for real-time data, we're gonna look at how to make it work. But we need to hear from you guys. We need to hear from end users in order to justify that kind of investment. Other questions? So it's exactly 3 o'clock, but because I ate into your Q&A time, if others have questions, I'll take 1 or 2 more, and then we have a 30-minute networking break, and we'll be milling up here if you want to talk one-on-one. So is there a last question from the audience? Okay, well, thank you for helping us keep to the 3 o'clock stop. Well, thank you so much to Dave and Maia, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Ariel.